Hello everyone, welcome back at my next video on my YouTube channel or any other platform. And as I promised, this time grammar and grammatical categories and around the grammar, around the parts of the speech and word classes, which is not really funny and really something appealing for many people, but it's very important as grammar is part of every language, and we talk with the means and with the help and using correct grammar, which means then we actually understand the language. Well, English, as many other languages, has grammatical categories. And how many? Usually 8 grammatical categories we can recognize in the English language, which is noun, pronoun, a verb, adjective, adverb, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. The part of the speech indicates how the word functions in the meaning and as well as grammatically within the sentence. So that's why it's very important, because we have to know that this word is this or that grammatical category, because it works and functions differently in different sentences. And of course, then there are grammatical categories more, and also what are grammatical categories in each this kind of word class. For instance, number, definitiveness or definiteness, tense, aspect, case in terms of nouns, person, gender, and mood. And we go through all these more or less categories, and also I have prepared for you also different expressions and terms in terms of grammar, and which we use to actually form and create sentences, questions, and different types of the sentences. The first one is verbs. As I always say, verbs are the most essential and the basic and absolutely inevitable part of the sentence, because if you want to understand also the foreign language, we have to understand first of all the verb, because the verb actually creates the basic tone, the basic activity, basic emotion, feeling, or whatever we want to say with any sentence. Inside of the verbs, we have categories like figure, person, number, singular or plural, tense, then moods, which are imperative, indicative, and conditional. What are actually these moods? The mood is actually sort of like modus, or sort of like a type of the idea or meaning which we want to say. So it might be actually question, statement, or something imperative, so or some part of the speech. So that's all the mood. The first one is indicative, and indicative is this the basic one. Yeah, it's a clause or part of the sentence which is in indicative mood, and it has a subject followed by a verb group. Examples are, for instance, I'm hungry, I have a house, I have kids, she was followed. So clauses of kind are typically used to make statements. So what is fact? What is kind of real fact? That's indicative mood. So mood actually is this modus that what kind of clause forms the sentence, yeah. And as I said, might be question, instruction, statement, something imperative. Then we have this imperative mood. An imperative mood means that we just say to someone what he or she or someone or in plural from they should do, or how to do it. So we just say very simply, do it, ask for it. It's very simple in English language, but in other languages it's a little bit different and sometimes more difficult. But that's actually in imperative mood. So it means that we just actually say what should be done. Yeah, something like that. So contains the base form of a verb and usually has no subject. So examples are go away, please be careful. Clauses of this kind are typically used to tell someone to do something. So what should or what to do something, what to do, to say to someone. And then we have conditional mood or conditional actually sentences, and I think a lot of people know that, because that's sort of clause which is subordinate usually, so it's like under the main clause, which refers to a situation which may exist or whose possible consequences you are considering. Most conditional clauses begin with if or unless. For example, if that happens, we will be in big trouble. and you don't have to come unless you want to. So actually, these are sentences which might be just true if there is some condition fulfilled or not. So if or unless, that's our conditional sentences. Then there is a grammatical category, noun. Noun is, I would say, second or also one of the most essential, inevitable parts of the sentences, which have a gender, number, again, singular or plural, grammatical, case, pattern, full meaning or non-full meaning. Gender, we know feminine, masculine in some sentences, and language is, of course, neutral. Number, singular, plural. A grammatical case, of course, we have in some languages 7 cases, in some languages 5 cases, in some languages no cases, because it's formed in another way. And what does it mean, full meaning or non-full meaning? It means that if there is a full meaning of the noun, it might actually stand alone in the sentence or in some expression. If a non-full meaning, it means that without actually any other word classes or parts of the speech, it has no meaning. We just don't understand it. The next one is adjective. An adjective is actually the word class which characterize and gives some features or some qualities to a noun, usually, or pronoun. So it can be relational or qualitative. Of qualitative or relational adjective, it means that it relates to something and it creates this kind of relational meaning or feeling. Yeah, it describes a person or a thing, or it gives some, like, something extra: tall, big, huge, successful, high quality. Usually come before nouns or after ling verbs. So these are adjectives. Then we have numerals, which we actually categorize to cardinal numbers and ordinal numbers. Cardinal numbers are the basic numbers when we count 1, 2, 3 until million. These are cardinal numbers, so standard numbers which we use for talking about basic stuff in numbers. And then we have ordinal numbers, which means that we have to say that if it's first, second, third, 101st, so we say in which rank, in which order is something. So 8th or 5th or 10th. So these are the numerals. Then we have, of course, the sentences, which in sentences we have some subjects, and of course these verbs, or they call it also predicate. So predicate means that it is actually verb, but in the sentence and grammatically, the name from Latin is predicate. And of course then subjects. And subject can be of interrogative sentence or imperative sentence. As we said, imperative mood, imperative sentence is about to say someone what to do and how to do. Interrogative means questions, asking. So interrogative sentence is typically question. And notification sentence means that we just say what is as the fact. So it is something like this indicative mood. So notification sentence means we announce, we just say it, we just say the fact, or is the basic form of the sentence. Then we have, of course, in grammar, reporting clause, because we can talk in a direct speech or in indirect speech. Direct speech means that we usually in the text, so we indicate it with quotation marks or inverted commas. Quotation marks are these little things which actually indicate that this is a direct speech. So someone says, you will never be successful. You will be successful because I told you. Some direct speech from the sentence, and it indicates it is quotation marks. Quotation marks are, how would I explain that? It's a part of the punctuation system, and it's basically inverted comma. So we know what is comma and inverted commas. These are actually quotation marks. It's punctuation marks that are used in writing to show where speech or quotation begins and ends. They are usually written or printed as, and we know how it works. Then, of course, in a direct speech, we have some beginning, some middle, or the end of the whole speech. So beginning of the direct speech, middle, and end. And reported speech or indirect speech, of course, we just actually describe with some kind of beginning of the sentence that who said what, Yeah. For instance, she said that, and then we continue. So these are already reported speeches or indirect speeches. Then we have, of course, in grammar, or part of the grammar is formation of the words, how we form the words. Especially in many Indian European languages, we form the words with suffixes or prefixes. So a suffix is something which goes after actually something. For instance, success, successful, this full, that's a suffix, or prefixes, which goes in front of the basic word, or derivation, which we derive from something. Usually it is of adverbs, or from derivative verbs, or from the words, or from the nouns. We derive it, and we create other types of the words, or composition of the words, which means that we compose it from more words. It's very popular when we use a dash and we create something like high quality or long hold. So these words are actually composed from many other words. Part of the grammar is also to understand the terms and expressions, which are, for instance, like saying. What is saying in English? Saying in English, or byword, we can say, is a sort of sentence that people often say, and that gives advice or information about human life and experience. So we use it in literature. We use it actually in some maybe poems even. We also, for instance, realize the truth of that old saying, charity begins at home. Or her favorite saying was, there are a lot of people far worse off than me. So these are the sayings which we usually use. We usually use it with about human life experiences, how it was, how it should be. Then there is a proverb which is very similar. Proverb means also it comes usually from the speeches or from the maybe sometimes non-written aspects of literature. It's a short sentence that people often quote, which gives advice or tells you something about life. For instance, an old Arab proverb says, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's typically, maybe you know these proverbs. There are so many of them. Some of them are actually something like aphorisms and quotes by famous people, some not. It comes from the different regions, countries, nations, like Arabic, Spanish. We have some Chinese proverbs a lot, coming from Buddhism, it's so on and so on. I think we know what's going on. Then we have also adage. It's adage. Adage is also very similar, like saying or proverb, more like proverb. It's also sort of it sometimes has a rhyme, and it has some meaning which is behind, and which people often say, and which expresses a general truth about some aspect of life. So it's quite old-fashioned adage to say adage. It's more or less proverb. For instance, every baby brings its own love. Usually turns out to be true. Every baby brings its own love, but adage is actually something which is generally true, and it comes from older generation, older people, older experiences. And I think that in terms of understanding the categories and grammar, it should be enough. And of course, then there are other like interjections or prepositions. There are other actually word classes and parts of the speeches, but I'm not going into deeper into this, because the basic ones we just actually went through, and I think that's all. And from these you can actually have at least some picture what is grammar and what is it about and how we understand it, and to speak better, to talk in a good way, because grammar is important in a way that we can really talk better, we can understand them better, and we talk better. Okay, thank you very much. See you next time.